I'm really, really glad to see that we've got so many people gathered here today. So now, the format of Women in Technology is very informal, so I have got a spare microphone for people to make any comments. Now, I thought because this is quite a new thing for SQL Rally Nordic, I'll give you some background data first of all. I've also invited a very special panellist, Maggie Navoma. Could you stand up if that's okay? Sorry, I didn't mean to do that when you were eating. Sorry. So what we'll probably do is, I'm not going to PowerPoint you to death. I'll let Maggie finish her lunch as well. And then we'll have a chat about some of our experiences as women in technology, why it matters. And I should say afterwards, or at any point, if you've got any comments, please feel free to wave your hand and I'll bring over the microphone. Ask any questions at all, if you have any. We can't guarantee we'll answer everything, but we'll do our best, yeah. So I thought just to set the scene and give you some data, I would give you some of the facts around women in technology. So I hope that's all right. In the meantime, feel free to enjoy your lunch, move around, there's water at the back and things. Okay? Okay, so the question we really had is women in technology, why does it matter? Now, I must admit, I used to think myself that perhaps it was not relevant. Why were people having women in technology at all? And then I started to realise, and speaking to other women, that sometimes could be a bit of a different experience being part of a team where, for example, as I was the only female in a team of 200 people. So perhaps when you are part of a team like that, there can be some practical things you can do to make sure your voice is heard and also taken seriously as well. Okay, so for me personally, I get passionate about women in technology because something that this character said. This is Cat in the Hat by Dr. Seuss. I assume that you've read the books. I read them to my son. Now, Cat in the Hat, there's a bit where he says, you should be able to go wherever you want to go in life. And I think that's probably true. It's all about giving yourself as many choices as possible in life. And something I feel quite passionately about is that everyone should have choices and not be parceled out from the careers or the opportunities that they'd like to do. I have got three cousins. They're all 15 years old. One wants to be a school teacher. The second wants to be a poet. And the third wants to be an astrophysicist. Yeah. So I think, well, good for her and good for them, because it's all about giving people the opportunities and the options to do whatever they want in life as much as possible, yeah, to have the careers that they dream of. So it's all about giving people, you fill your own shoes and you walk your own walk. And it's how you want to go, okay? The thing we have at the moment in Europe is that we see that there's not so many women in technology as there are men. It's just one of these things. We see it quite clearly in the workplace. I remember when I used to do work for Cisco a few years ago now, I was the only pregnant Cisco employee in a conference of 300 men, and I kept having to go out to the toilet and back again every 5 minutes. But it was like the staff didn't know quite what to do with me. I had to explain, I'm not going to pop at any minute, it's going to be fine. So the thing is, there's an IT skills shortage in Europe, and that probably surprises you. And the thing is, it's all about trying to encourage people to take up careers in IT or maths or engineering, and that's a general issue. It's not just specific to girls or to women. It's about feeling that actually there is a whole range of people with lots of skills that are very useful in IT, and commercially about making advantage of those where possible. Okay. So now this is an American statistic that show that women hold only 25% of positions in IT. I know in the United Kingdom it used to be 30 3%, and now the figure has fallen to 19%. From my personal perspective in my own life, I find having an IT career extremely rewarding. It gives me lots of flexibility and independence, and a skill set which I can take from place to place. It gives me options, and I think that's what's key about, for me personally, women in technology, that giving people opportunities to do what they would like to do. Independence, financial independence as well. So I was reading recently that in Norway they've tried to do some positive discrimination about having women on boards because the number of women is so few. We have the same situation here, 11% of women in Fortune 500 executive roles. Okay. So here in the United States we see that 18% of computing science degrees are awarded to women in the United States. And that's a real shame. Personally, I love data. And I think if we can perhaps redefine the IT professional role as a data professional role, about a way we can use data to answer questions that help people, that perhaps we might attract more and retain more women into the industry. So why do we need more women in tech? Why does it actually matter? And fundamentally, the key is this. There's been lots of research in this issue. We have a quote here. Teams with at least one female member tend to outperform male-only groups in collective intelligence tests and collectively working together. Now, there's a gentleman by the name of Professor Scott Page. He did a lot of work in diversity in the workplace, and he talks about applying mathematical models to how teams actually work. And he did a lot of research, and he basically showed that diverse teams performed better than teams where everyone had the same characteristic. And the thing is, a more diverse team tended to be more productive, and they had more creative ways of problem solving. And I think the key to that is really that when you have a lot of people with different perspectives on the same problem, you can start to move that problem along and work it out more quickly and a bit better, because not everybody is thinking the same. And I don't just mean women in technology here, I mean age as well, physical ability too. And also by representing women and other minorities, what you're doing is relating better to your customer. That could be your software customer, or it could be the customer in the business organization as well. So having a diverse team can help. There was also some research done by the McKinsey Management Group, and they found pretty much the same thing, that diverse teams actually performs better in terms of problem solving. And if you're in a situation where you need to problem solve very quickly, having a range of perspectives really does help. So there's been some statistics. Tech companies with more women in management have 34% return on investment. Now, I sometimes think this is a bit of a carrot, chicken and egg question. And what I mean by that is, do these companies perform better because they have got women on their teams? Or is it because they have women on their teams that they perform better? Do they suddenly start to do well and then recruit women when they are doing well? Companies like Google and Toyota, Coca-Cola, who actively promote positive discrimination and try to encourage women to join the ranks. And it sounds like a nice thing to do, let's be warm and cuddly and have lots of women and lots of, everything will be really nice. But actually, when organizations are saying things like, we want to hire more women, what they actually mean is we want to make more money. Because diverse teams are more productive and they work better together to problem solve. So effective teams are the fundamental part of any organization, and if you can make your teams more productive and perform better, then it affects directly your bottom line in the organization, affects how much money you make. So I used to think that I've rejected jobs from organizations on the basis of they just seem to want to hire me because I'm female. I did not like that at all, and I still don't. I think it should be about what skills you have. And I thought it used to think it was a bit insulting that they were even asking me this, because they were actively hiring me. But I realised the reason they were doing that is because they believed in the diversity of teams and trying to make more money through having bigger teams that works more effectively. Okay. So I think things are probably going to start changing. I know it's not all doom and gloom. We've seen some success in the United Kingdom around in the field of dentistry, actually. Say 20 years ago, we used to have a women in dentistry movement in the UK because there was only 10% or so dentists. There was not many. But what we have now is there's no real need for women in dentistry, because they are 50% roughly. And so women in dentistry has gone past, they don't need it anymore because they feel they have achieved that balance. And it would be nice in a way if we didn't have to have women in technology either, just simply because it would be nice if the issues went away. Hello there. That's okay. I thought I would try and let people eat while I talk, but okay. So I think things will probably change. We can see women are starting up more technology companies. I hope you can see that. But 187 million women worldwide starting up or heading up their own businesses. So hopefully things will start to change as we move forward a little bit. Okay. And it says here we've seen an improvement since 2003. 40-odd%. So things are starting to change. But it's all about just trying to reach people in their own personal environments. So I just wanted to say thank you. So just to summarise, why does women in technology matter? Ideally, it would be nice if the whole question went away and we didn't have to think about it anymore. It just seems that we need to do something in order to try to encourage younger women to think or consider about IT as a career, and then try to retain them when they're actually in the career as well. It just seems such a pity that we have such a talented pool of people and we are not tapping that resource very well or properly. Okay, so what I thought I'd do is I'd like to introduce Kaylin as well. Most of you will know Kaylin. Sorry, I sprung that on you. Kaylin's been very experienced in dealing with panels in women technology before, so I'm glad you could make it as well. So I don't know if anybody has any comments before we sort of start chatting. I just thought I would give you some slides to give you some data. So I don't want to PowerPoint you to death. It was more about trying to encourage some discussion, really. So what I thought I'd do is, if it's okay, I can pass to Maggie just to talk about her experiences and how you got here, how you, so let's see if we can switch this thing on. Who's good with microphones? I'm not good with microphones, printers, or these, apparently.
I can speak loudly.
Are you sure?
Like this.
All right. I can give you this if you want.
No.
Sure. Sorry, I can't see the button.
Switch this on. Thank you. That's the woman with technology thing. There's no. No. Just hit it on the Okay, so I will speak loudly. It's not the first time I have a problem with the hardware, actually. So I'm glad I'm here. Thank you, Jen, for inviting me.
So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Maggie. My full name is actually Margarita, but Maggie is easier to pronounce. I'm a SQL Server Master. Microsoft Certified Master. I'm a Microsoft MVP of SQL Server. I'm working with SQL Server, well, for a long time. And I worked for Microsoft for 5 years, and after that I left Microsoft, and I'm now a consultant and a trainer of my own company. So I'm happy to grow my child. at home, along with doing all those things with the technology. So it's a personal choice, actually. If I was thinking at the moment of my career that I cannot do that because I'm a woman, I never would be here. So I don't think that you can push women to a technology thing. It's just a passion, and it's just a choice. If you are good of this, and if you want to do this, you're just welcome. So, as not just in the technology area, but in every area. So I don't think that just women are rare animals in the technology area. They are just good on doing things. They are passionate. They are disciplined, and those are positive things, not just in the technology, but in every area. So it's not just about man and woman. Sometimes it's just about the character and the willingness to be the best, to be good at your job, and to make people happy around you, to help them. So I think these are the major things that matter if you just want to go with the technology. So I will not tell a girl, for example, to not go to the technology, or to push her to go in this area. I will just, someday I will tell my daughter, please do whatever you want, whatever you like, and don't make yourself boundaries. Don't just feel like you can't do something because those boundaries of thinking. When I was thinking about can I do a MCM exam, for example, I was not surprisingly I was the only woman in the group in Redmond. I was not thinking that I can't make it. I was just I was very systematic in my exam. Some of my colleagues were starting just clicking in the lab. Of those 6 hours, I was 2 of them. I was just writing and designing and planning, and that helps me a lot. That helped me. I think that the person who just have a passion and who has this kind of thinking, analytical thinking, and a mathematical thinking also, it doesn't matter if he or she is wants to go to the technology. It's just a passion. It's just a map. It's just your road to realize yourself, to be successful. Those are, I think, those are most important things. When I work in Microsoft, they had those diversity programs, Women in Technology, and first couple of times I was just rejected to go there, just because what exactly is that, and why I have to go there? So I'm not just something unique, you know. So it's the same like people with different religion or people with different nationalities being the IT. It's the same as women in IT. It's not a kind of different thing. But when we spoke with Jen 2 weeks ago,
Yes.
Sofia, we discussed a lot about this session, and I thought, okay, if I can help a woman just to break those thinking styles that prevent her of going and following the passion and her will. then I'm here. That's why I'm here.
Thank you.
So it's doable. It's something that everyone can do, not just a woman or a man. And I will encourage, if I can do it, then everyone can do it. So I encourage everyone to just follow the passion of the dreams, and those are just come on time, and it doesn't matter if you are a man or a woman. Diversity is important, very important. It's not just something that is your primary goal, but please don't as my personal message, please don't create additional boundaries in mind. They are just not necessary. Okay, Jen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I don't know if anyone has got any comments or any thoughts at this time. We might even get the microphone working, who knows. Yeah, I want to say thank you to Maggie. Maggie's a role model for me, so thank you very much. Smart lady, thank you. I see that Kaylin's eating, but I was hoping that I might ask you to say a few words, if that's all right. Do you introduce yourself and how you got here? And because I know you've done Women in Technology.
How I got here to Stockholm.
How you got to be one of the first SQL Server MVPs, is that right? Or the first?
I wasn't the first SQL Server MVP. But I'm the longest continuous now.
Oh, wow.
Thank you so much for doing this, Jen.
No, it's all right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Kaylin. I've been working with SQL Server for 26 years now, but technology longer than that. And it's a lot of like what Margarita said, that it's just what I was interested in, and I was very, very fortunate to have a mother who just totally never made any big deal about it. Whatever you want to do is okay. My mother was a little more than just accepting. She was a role model. Also, my mother was actually a calculus teacher, a college calculus teacher, and she met my father, who was one of her students at the university in calculus class. So I grew up with believing that, women just would do anything. But as a young adult, I was aware of the fact that there weren't a lot of role models, but I never felt that didn't mean I couldn't do it. Just because I didn't see a lot of other women doing a lot of occupations, it didn't mean that a woman couldn't. It just, there weren't at this point. So I just followed my passion, and I was always interested in math and science. I was always interested in figuring things out. I was always interested in technical details, and so I actually didn't start in computers at university. I actually started studying linguistics. My undergraduate degree is in linguistics, but I was just very interested in the analytical aspect of figuring out how languages were different. Thank you very much. Hello? But you could hear me anyway, right? Yeah. But my senior year of university, I decided to, let's take a class for fun, and I took a programming class, and oh boy, that was, I need to do more of this. But little did I know that graduate work in computer science was nothing like the fun of an introductory programming class. A compiler class? This was nothing like the fun I had in programming. But I'd already enrolled, I paid my money, so I stuck it out, and I ended up getting a master's degree. And I worked as an instructor because by the first year of graduate school, I had my first child, and there were lots of positions available for instructors because way back then, you can try and figure out how many years, there weren't a lot of, anybody with a degree in computer science was going out and making lots of money, and there weren't people who wanted to stay and just teach it. And I wanted that because I wanted to have a very flexible, light schedule with my small child at that point. So I stayed at the university for several years teaching, and then when I needed to leave the university, my first real job out of the university was with the Sybase Corporation. And I got a job with them, which is where SQL Server was born, and the rest is history. Started working with SQL Server then 26 years ago is when I started with Sybase, and shortly after we moved from the Berkeley, California area to the Seattle area, and I started working with the Microsoft product, which had started with the Sybase product. I found the CompuServe news groups, and it was like, oh, I know the answer to a lot of these questions. And I just started answering questions and got some email a few months later about this MVP program, and somebody offered to send me all these goodies and all this swag, and I'll say, well, I always love swag. So is that like, I mean, is that some genetic relationship between technical interest and loving swag? I don't know, but my family thinks I'm absolutely nuts when I come home from a conference. I just love little toys, you know.
Yeah, I love the stickers you get in the MVP program. I've got loads of them.
or little gadgets that have a logo on them.
Yeah.
SQL Server logos, of course, are the absolute best. If I can get anything with a SQL Server logo on it, I'll just collect them, and then I'll have 6 of something that I'll never use, but I have them. That's the only thing I'm really a pack rat about is SQL Server logoed items. But I still love SQL Server, even after all these years. I'm always excited when a new version comes out. I love to write about SQL Server. I love to teach about SQL Server. And the fact that I'm female, just really the biggest benefit that I see of that is when I come to a technical conference, there's no lines in the ladies' room. That's the best thing about it. Any place else I go, the ladies' room lines are so much longer, but at technical conferences, hey, we can just sit back and relax, right? So I was really happy when Jen told me she was going to be running this event today. I did have a session right before, so I wasn't able to get here right at the start. But I always love to talk to other women, because not only can we talk about technology, but then we can share little stories about children and shoes, and I can admire Margarita's scarf there, and I can talk about anything I'm interested in. It's really wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you very much.
No, you don't need that.
I don't need that. I've got mine.
Okay.
You can
Who
keep
are you
that.
gonna get next?
Let me see. I just wanted, before we proceed, to say thank you for Kaylin. I know you rushed here from your session, so thank you for taking the time for us today. Thank you. I wondered if anybody had any comments or any stories to share, how they got to fall into a women in technology career. Does anybody want to share? I can if I want, if you like, but I thought you've maybe heard enough from me already. For me personally, I went into technology just simply because it gave me a lot of flexibility and obviously financial independence as well, because it meant it also means I can travel and get to do fun things. So the fact that I'm here in Stockholm is fantastic for me. I used to work in Sweden, actually. I used to work for a mobile phone company, putting in the email system, believe it or not. And I just sort of fell in love with Stockholm then. So very glad to be back. So coming back to the main question, why does it matter? I think if you are building software solutions as an enterprise and as a piece of enterprise architecture, it's always good to have ideas to bounce things around the place, because I'm a person who might start with a bad idea and then run with it. And I think that's how teams help. I don't know how it works in Sweden, but it seems to me, we saw from the figures that there's fewer women obtaining computer science degrees. I'll just go back to that slide. Where was it? Going back. Here. All right. So it's just interesting because women in the US get nearly 60% of bachelor's degrees, but they only less than 20% of those computing science degrees are awarded to women. And for me, personally, I didn't start off doing a computing science degree. Mine was in psychology and philosophy, and I then fell into computing science. So I think there's different paths that people can go into. So that's how I started, and then I moved into IT. I'm Scottish, you can probably tell by the accent, but they had a drive at the time to encourage people to go into IT jobs. So I went and did a master's that way. But it seems to me that we have this requirement really to try and build good teams because it directly affects the workforce. I was reading recently that Europe has quite a shortfall in IT skills, so it seems to me we have this untapped resource pool. But the thing is, I'm just never sure why so many women, I'm not sure why so many women don't go for computing science in the first place. And it always leads me back to think, is there something in the education system that makes these particular subjects less interesting? And I don't mean just to girls, but to boys as well. I don't know how it works in Sweden, but in the UK at the moment, we're seeing a drop in the number of people taking maths degrees and science degrees and engineering degrees. And when they do, there's a higher than normal failure rate. So I don't know if anyone can tell me how it works in Sweden, but in the UK it just seems to me that I would like us to give young women in particular ways in which they can see IT as a career for them. I'm not sure how we can do that. Does anybody any thoughts on how we could perhaps change education in a certain way to try and encourage people to take up these topics more? Any thoughts, anyone? No? Would you think, Kaylin, is it like that in the US? So I interrupt you, Jeeveetan, again.
Yeah, I don't think I have the best recommendations here, because for me it was never an issue. It was,
Yes.
I was interested and I did what I wanted, and I didn't need any special encouragement, and I took the math classes and I then took the computer classes. So
Yeah.
what would have encouraged me more? Well,
Yes.
it's hard to imagine more encouragement.
Yeah.
I think, though, social media can help these days. If there is a young woman or a adolescent girl who is interested, I think there would be more opportunity for her to at least realize she's not alone.
Yes.
Through Facebook pages or sites, and to just make sure that there is information out there. I have no idea how to encourage girls and women to do this, but for the women that are interested, that do have the passion, to just know that this is perfectly okay and that there's lots of other women who are doing it, and just go for it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I'm interested, I wonder if that's one of the reasons we're starting to see an increase again in women starting to take up computing science degrees or start their own organisations. They don't feel that maybe quite so alone, or it's easier to feel if you're part of a network, a good network, whether that's a social media network or not, that you have opportunities there or people to give you ideas. So I know in Twitter we have the hashtag SQL Help, which I think was devised by Brent Ozar. I think Brent was one of the people who made that Twitter hashtag as a way of people could easily ask questions on Twitter. And I think to myself that perhaps these sort of networks can really help encourage people not only to consider it as a career, but to stay in it as well. Something about me as an individual, I came from a very poor background in Scotland, and I was the first person in my whole extended family, not just my immediate family, but my extended family, and in the area where I lived, to go to university, the very first one. And it just, I felt that I had two choices. I could either live my life the way that I was headed, in a poor town, in a poor background. We didn't have central heating. What we used to have to do is you'd run the water in the morning to wash your face, and you'd break the ice in the water. It was that cold, yeah. And we were that poor, we had one fire in the house, and that was it. And I thought, I don't want personally to live my life like this. I don't want to be doing this in 20 years' time. I don't want to have children who are, cold at home. And I thought, this is the only way I can see out, is to educate myself. The Latin word education, it actually comes from a Latin word, ducere, which means to lead. And you add the E in the front of it, to lead out. And I think that's what education does. It leads out, it gives you hope, and it gives you a way out of your circumstances. So I think for me, the other side of the question, why does women in technology matter? Is it because it matters to people? I suppose in my situation 20, 30 years ago, it was a way out, a way to make things better for myself. And I think I suppose I get quite heated and passionate about the idea that young girls in particular should be given the opportunities to find a way out, to have that education, that leading out, and those opportunities. And how we do that, I'm not sure. It seems to me young girls are very girls are perhaps very good, effective consumers of technology, so they have iPods and Zunes, if anyone had a Zune. I certainly did. That they can move and see, well, actually, this career is accessible to me, and that's the way that I can find my own way out. So I think that's, for me, why it matters. It's about giving people those options where they can move forward in their lives and try and take a risk and make things better for themselves. I think when I listened to Maggie and to Kaylin, it's clearly very determined women, which was great. I think maybe sometimes young girls need that role model. I had a role model who was a woman I used to watch on television who talked about medicine, because I had nobody in my immediate area. I did not go to a good school. And I thought, well, she can do this. I must be able to do this as well. I'm going to try. And if I don't try, I haven't lost anything. I'm back where I was. And I think if a role model is a way to do that, then that's not a bad thing. I think it's about encouraging people in the way that they can be reached best. And I suppose that's why, one way I wanted to have the Women in Technology was to get people to know one another and to build networks. And hopefully we will see you at Seagull Rally again next time. But with that, I don't know if anyone's got any comments or questions, and I just would ask you one thing. I haven't asked you to do anything, but I just wanted to ask you all to, if you haven't done so yet, to turn to the person next to you and introduce yourself, so that at least you have gone and you've spoken to at least one person at the Seagull Rally event. And with that, I will leave you to do that. And thank you very much for coming. Thank you.